So we have a major problem. Not a little problem, a major problem. Because what is happening right now, the time frame of all these things, they're now starting to come to an end. Here's the problem. Congress does not know what to do. Now, I'm going to address what's happening. I'm going to address how this is going to impact you and what we should expect moving forward. But all I can tell you right now is to just watch out, because you may be screwed in the end. So, all I ask is one thing, takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So there is something that is happening right now, and that is a fight over the federal budget. Right now, today, the U.S. debt exceeded $34 trillion. For the first time in history, it's the highest it has ever been, and it continues to climb. Everybody is looking at that debt. That is a monumental amount of debt that we continue to spend and we're paying interest on. That's troubling. But at the same time, the Biden administration and Republicans are going back and forth trying to negotiate this federal funding bill. The problem is they cannot agree how much money we should spend, because with the former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, him and President Biden agreed that a cap of $1.59 trillion was the number. Well, then he was ousted as the Speaker, a new Speaker came in, and that number is now, it's being talked about, but that's not the new cap. So, where do we go from here? Well, this is the problem. At the same time, we're trying to negotiate a government funding bill for fiscal year 2024. The problem is we also have a border crisis where thousands of people are entering the United States illegally every single day. Just in December, we saw over 300,000 people enter the United States, and this doesn't even include all the people that got away. Now, here's where things get interesting. In order to pass a government funding bill, lawmakers have to agree. They have to agree on how much money we spend and where that money is allocated. This is where most people can't agree. And so what's happening right now is we are seeing a fight over border security, funding for Ukraine, funding for Israel, and funding for the entire United States government. And this has to be passed by January 19th. Here's where it's turning into an issue. Right now, we're seeing so many people enter into the United States illegally, but the Biden administration cannot stop them, because if the United States, or if the Biden administration stops them, it is pretty much telling Republicans that, yeah, you were right, we were wrong, we messed up, and we pretty much screwed over the American people. The Biden administration can't do that. If they do that, what we are hearing is that Democrats will lose handedly in the upcoming election. President Biden would not win his second term, which likely would then go to former President Donald Trump, who would win his second term. Now, if this happens, then we see more border policies, or a stricter border policy. We're likely to see executive action if Congress can't pass something and pass a bipartisan bill. Former President Donald Trump would likely come out and he would want to build the border wall, finish it at least. And if the federal government doesn't agree with that and they can't put together a government funding bill for fiscal year 2025 with a border wall, budget in there, he's likely to hold out. And so the federal government would shut down next year. So this is where some are saying we have to figure it out this year, or else things will get worse in 2025. We're already hearing that 2024 could be one of the most difficult and hardest years in the recent history. That's troubling, because we went through 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023 was no picnic either. Now, here's where things are really getting out of hand. Right now, if we see the federal government shut down, one of the places that's being hit hardest are federal campsites, national parks. We are seeing campsites, state campsites. These are being overrun by immigrants. Well, guess what? What we are facing now is, we don't have the shelters in place. Sorry, you gotta live on the street. Or we're now hearing that officials are pushing people over to these campsites where they pay $30 a day or $20 a day or whatever it is so that they can pitch a tent and sleep on the ground. Well, migrants are more than happy to do that because they're here in the US. But here's where things get somewhat dicey. As we enter into this troubling time, we're seeing many people are staying at these campsites. Some are actually going a complete opposite way and just putting a tent on someone's property. For example, this San Diego area resident says migrants are camping in yards piling trash nightly and says that this is ridiculous. This is what we're facing. The hardest part about what's going on right now is we have no clue what's going to happen in the future. All I can tell you is that there's 4 options when it comes to the government funding bill. If the government shuts down, though, and these campsites end up getting shut down, all these migrants will be kicked out of the campsites. They'll be kicked out. They'll have to go to maybe shelters, put tents under, overpasses, they'll under bridges, whatever. They're going to have to figure out a way because there's not enough room in shelters. But at the same time, the Biden administration, they want to use national parks to house migrants. Well, here's what happened last year. The House of Representatives passed legislation preventing the Biden administration from housing migrants in national parks because that was something that was considered. Is the Biden administration thought of let's start building some shelters. Let's build little homes so we can house these migrants. Well, guess what? That costs money. The United States doesn't have any money. We have a debt of $34 trillion and counting. It's getting out of hand. And so what I can tell you right now is there's 4 options for the federal government right now. The first one is that Congress just passes its government funding bill, right? And they can do it in many different ways. One could be a stopgap bill. It would be a short-term bill that would push it back for another month or two, exactly what they did a couple months ago. And it would push it back until, who knows, maybe April or May. Right? That's an option. The other option is the government shuts down. This is something that Republicans have said they want to avoid, but at the same time, if it comes to our national security and shoring up security at the border, they will go with a shutdown to ensure that Democrats know they're serious. So that's an option as well. The next one is Congress passes an omnibus bill. This would be a huge bill that would increase funding, very slightly, but it would increase funding for the next year. A lot of pay increases would go into it, all this stuff. But if that happens, well, I'm not even going to go down that road because honestly, it's not going to happen. Democrats say that they want an omnibus bill. Almost every single Republican that I've ever listened to, read interviews from, just read articles from, just quotes, nobody's going to vote for an omnibus bill. Not with Democrats because they say Democrats' asks are so outlandish. They're just too high, and there's no way we can pass those. So, what we know right now is the United States is going to struggle. But as we struggle, the threat is, our parks could shut down. Immigrants could be kicked out of national parks. If they're kicked out of national parks, where are they going to put their tent? Where are they going to live? We don't have enough shelters. We don't have enough space. We don't have money. We don't have the resources. So at some point, something has to happen. But like many other things, it all comes back to the border. Are we going to secure the border? As of right now, we don't know. But what I can tell you is that as soon as we get any information, any updates on any of this stuff, I will bring you that update as soon as possible. All I ask is you click that subscribe button, you subscribe so you never miss an update, and I will see you guys on the next one.